We're just going to read the basic instructions that come on the front of every instruction packet that you get. We need the microphone. It's not going to pick us up.
Right, so we just gotta stop this computer. Yep, forget about that. It's okay. Villainous. Today we played this red expansion. It's the Cruella de Vil expansion. It came with Cruella de Vil, Mother Gothel, and Pete. If you don't know who Mother Gothel is, she is
the villain from Tangled.
Subpar villain.
She's the best.
Pete is the old school. This is the old school Pete.
From Mickey Mouse.
From Mickey Mouse, yeah, not the new age Pete.
And then obviously Cruella de Vil is from 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah. So Villainous. It is a Disney game where you play as the villains, and there's a ton of different expansions that come with this. So you can pretty much get every single villain possible, which I believe we did.
So we have every expansion pack that is out currently. Villainous, the one that we just got, the one with Cruella de Vil, is the most recent one. It came out, I believe, at the beginning of March. They don't have any other ones that they say are coming out. The first pack comes with 6 villains, and then everyone after comes with 3 additional villains.
Yeah, so there's going to be a few things we talk about in all these board game reviews. So it's going to be things like the difficulty of the game, our age suggestion, the ease of play or like the pickup ability of the game, along with like our overall rating. And what's also most important for a lot of these board games is setup time. Because sometimes you want to get in a quick game, but if the game takes an hour to set up, you're not really going to get into that. But first we'll start with just like the basic instructions of what Villainous is.
So I'm just going to read this part. It comes on every single instruction packet that you get with every Villainous pack. So it says, take on the role of a Disney villain. To win, you must explore your character's unique abilities and discover how to achieve your own story-based objective. Each villain guide will inspire you with strategies and tips. Once you've figured out the best way to play it as one villain, try to master another. There are 3 different villains in this game, in this specific pack, and each one achieves victory in a different way. So when it said to master your villain guide, this is what it's talking about. Every single villain that comes in this pack has a villain guide. Your villain guide tells you what you specifically need to do, because in this game, every single villain wins a different way.
Yeah, so let's start off with that. We're going to start off with a lot of the good things for Villainous. One thing is, if you buy the main pack, which is the big green one, it comes with 6 different people in it. You can play that game 7 times and not play the same character once and not play the same way twice. So every character has their own strategy. Right here I have Pete's stuff out because I just played Pete. You know, Pete brought home the W today. So Pete has a variety of things he does. So for Pete, he has 5 individual goals, and they're all a bit different. So this one right here is gain at least 4 power while playing the game at the start of this location. So what he has to do is he randomly picks 4 of these, hides them on his board, and then tries to get those completed without the other villains figuring it out.
And 2 of the other villains don't know what those are. They know in your pack it tells you the goals of the other villains, but for Pete specifically, you know he has 4 villains, or 4 goals, but you don't know which 4 goals they are.
Yeah. So that's a really amazing fact. Like we got all the expansions, we've played all the expansions, and we still haven't played out every character. No. We've played all of us has played one person from each expansion.
Right. We've played this game, I think, 4 or 5 times, and we've not played the same character once, and we have not played nearly close to playing all. There are 15 total villains. Yeah. So we would have to play it 15 times to even get a chance to play one of them, and you can't really master the character until you play them more than a time. So I do like that about the game, is that there are really endless possibilities. You can keep playing a character over and over again until you get to know them and their strengths and what they need to do to win.
So that's quantity. There's a ton of quantity in this, and I have to say the pieces for the most part are pretty quality too. Like a lot of them, they look really cool. Some of them are a little basic. Pete's is a little basic. His is just like a fat ball with ears.
This is Mother Gothel, and they made the top look like the flower that the entire Entangled movie's about. So that's pretty cool.
So even if you don't want to ever play these games, just getting the game pieces would be cool decorations just to have, because you can look at them and pretty much know every villain. Unless you were born in the late 2000s, you probably won't know most of them.
Okay, so we kind of described the game a little bit, so do you want to go into
let's go into some stuff.
All right.
So, that was pretty much the description of the game, but we're going to talk about the difficulty. So, it's a Disney game, so on the box, it says, I believe, 10 and up. 10 and up.
It suggests being 10 years old when you start. There's no way.
I feel like they put it a little low because it's a Disney game. They're aging it towards kids, which is great because kids could play this game. But due to the fact that there are 15 different people who play completely differently, and when I mean completely differently, they have completely different mechanics. So when I was talking about Pete and his 5 goals, Brooke was playing Cruella de Vil. She had to capture puppies, which are these little tokens. So each person has completely different tokens, completely different cards, and that's one gripe I have with the game. There is no real continuity to anything.
So that is one thing about the age restriction or suggestions that I don't agree with, because every single time we play, and we just bought this new expansion pack today, we all had to sit here for about 10 minutes reading what our character needed to do to win, and then also reading what our other characters were playing to do. And you can mix and match the characters throughout the boxes. You don't just have to play these 3 together, but you do have to take a lot of time to see what you need to do, what your cards do, and what the people you're playing against need to do, because that affects how you play with each other.
So with that, you have your objectives, which come in your little pamphlet, but then you also get these action symbols, which are like the turn of play cards, which I love that board games are doing this now, which are basically just giving you instructions on what you need to do.
So every spot has 4 or more, and the action that he's talking about, it reminds you what that means to do.
And then on the back of all those, we have the villain objectives. And on the back, it has a short description of all the people in your expansion. This is one thing that I thought of today when we bought this. If you wanted to combine expansions, you're going to have to take a villain objective card from each box, just so you can remember. So this card that came in the Cruella de Vil box only has Cruella de Vil, Mother Gotham, and Pete. So if we're playing the base version, the green one, and I want to play Pete, but everyone else wants to play from this one, everyone's going to have to take one of these cards out of this other expansion and from this box, just so they can know what I'm doing, what everyone else is doing. So it tends to get a little chaotic, and I feel...
And it's not something that you can really, just kind of skip out. Read at the beginning, I know that Pete needs to solve 4 goals. Throughout the game, you're constantly looking and reminding yourself what the other people are trying to do, so that you don't get too wrapped up in trying to win yourself, that you forget to fate people, or you forget to mess with their boards to try to make it harder for them to win.
Well, they don't know what fating is yet, which is something we'll get into a little bit after we finish this up. So with the continuity of everything, it tends to, what I have found is, because you're so bent on figuring out how your character plays differently from every other character, it tends to make remembering the normal rules that are based with everything else harder to remember. Like remembering what turn order is, or what you're supposed to do with each action that is available to you. So when you have to remember new rules for every single character, including your own, and then also remember the base rules to the game, it tends to lead to a bit of confusion.
I'd say the ideal age to play this without frustration would probably be early teens. Just because at that point they're able to fully read everything that's on the cards. Because there are big words, and there are things that you might not really you might not be accustomed to in your day-to-day life. You're not gonna see all of these words daily. And then also, it's a really frustrating game. We played with Brooke today, and she was getting so mad at us because we were like, wait, can you do that card? And she's 16. So I think 10 is too young. I think that would be a really frustrating age to try to play this game. I love this game. We enjoy playing this game, but I think 10 is just too young of an age to try to play this game successfully.
Plus, there's a lot of things to manage. So right here, this is your board. Every character gets their own board, and these boards are really cool as well. So if you just want to like if you want to get a bunch of these and collect these, that's awesome as well. It has a bunch of different areas that are relevant to the character, and then it has the actions you can do on them. We won't get too deep into the actions because we're not going to teach you how to play the game because that would take way too long. But we'll teach you some of the things. So the big draw to the game that I think is really cool, they have an interesting way of you interacting with the other players. For the most part in the game, you're going to be doing your own thing. But then you'll start seeing that the other villains are getting a little close to their goal. So what you would do is, you would land on one of your spaces that have a fate token. Now, fate tokens are a separate deck. So this is what I'm going to talk about. Each character has two separate decks. They have their deck, and then they have the fate deck. Their deck right here will have things that are related to their character. So for Pete, since it's old school Pete, he was, I believe he was like a gang leader. So he has a bunch of bandits.
So in their pack, they'll have allies, items, and there's one more. Effects. So allies obviously help you with your goal. Items also help you with your goal. And then effects you play once and they go into your discard pile.
And again, each character's effects are different. Each character's allies are different.
Their story.
And they add in the normal moves. So they have normal moves like gain money, basically. It's called power in this, but gain money. Some of your allies can help you gain money, depending on who you're playing. But then you have your fate deck. So your opponents use your fate deck. You don't touch it at all. And basically, it's basically like adding hindrances to their games.
We've played before, and it's like, Rob played as Prince John once, and his goal was to get money. He had to do nothing else but get so much money at the start of his turn. And so, like, that was really easy.
That's a big thing that's kind of going back to the difficulty is, since each person has a goal, I kind of feel like not all the characters are balanced as to other characters.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the characters, for the most part, have to achieve a goal and then make it to the start of their turn.
Yeah.
Which, if you're the first player, tends to be easier because you have the first turn.
But for the instructions, they do offer some sort of counterbalance.
I don't think that.
So if you're first, you don't start with any power. If you're second, you start with 1. If you're third, you start with 2.
And you use the money to play your cards. Some cards have costs, kind of like Magic, if you've ever played Magic.
But like if you're playing Prince John, who only needs to get money, and you start third, you've already got 3 tokens. So is it really hard?
Yeah. So
it is like trying to match up the villains with each other. That is a little bit tricky, like trying to figure out. And I don't think they're necessarily all matched up perfectly in their boxes either.
When I was playing Prince John, why would I go first? If I can start third and start with extra money, and my goal is to get a certain amount of money, why wouldn't I do that? I have no incentive to go first because it's not the start for Prince John. It wasn't the start of his turn he needed money. He just needed to gain that money at some point in the game. So if Taylor had did something in the middle of her turn that had granted me money and it gave me $20, I would just win there. And that would be the end of the game. All right, so we've gone over difficulty, some pickup and playability stuff, what we think the age restrictions should be for a type of game like this. But then the last thing is the instruction manuals. I think they're great for the most part.
I would say they're very intuitive. We pick it up multiple times throughout the game to try to figure out, and we're generally pretty...
The only issue I have with them is they're all I think they're all exactly the same, except the pictures are different. I feel like maybe since you have different styles of different styles of characters, maybe if you had each one just a tiny bit different, give a little more in-depth into what your character does, because these character objective pamphlets are great. They pretty much tell you everything you need to know, but they don't help you in the moment. in the moment, if you have a card that says activate here, you don't know if you activate it by doing this or doing that.
It's a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, so you will be looking, at least the first few times you play, you will be looking back at the rule book. I think almost until you've played this 100 times, you will look at the rule book every single time because it's just so much to remember.
I do like the rule book though. Like it literally like depicts what your setup should look like. It has different arrows pointing, and like he said, the characters change based on what expansion pack are depicted in your instructions. So this one has Cruella de Vil in it because it came from that pack. But I would say there, like, if we ever have a question, we look it up. There's a table of contents. It tells you exactly what page to go to. That's super helpful. We are able to answer all of our questions based on the instruction manual.
There's pretty much never been a time where we are like, just do whatever, because we don't know what to do.
Right.
We've pretty much found what we needed to do. I think we might have had a few iffy moments with certain characters, just because maybe their cards read a little bit weird, or they're
and that is another thing, because you follow your villain guide, but it may only tell you a certain amount. Like today, Brooke, it told her she needed to do a certain thing, but then her card told her what she needed to do to finish that action. And in your villain guide, it does tell you like what cards will be helpful. It's just, again, a lot of flipping back and forth and trying to really understand your character.
Yeah. So I would say, my suggestion would be to grab one. Grab one of these expansions.
We grab them all.
Or grab the big one. I would probably say, so here's the crazy thing. So I believe this Villainous, the big green one, this one comes with 6 people. I believe, sorry, I covered your face. I believe this was maybe $60.
I don't think it was that expensive.
Yeah, I think it was. How much were these?
All the expansions were about... I bought one today, I should know. I think the one today was $24. So I think the expansions are like $24, but I think the big one was like
this is like
30 something. I don't think it was
I think this was about $50 when I bought it at the game store. So if you want to jump right in...
Oh, see, I bought the expansions from Walmart, and then I bought that expansion from Target. The red Villainous is actually only available at Target right now. So that's also something to know if you want Cruella de Vil.
So I would say probably go with one of these smaller ones right here.
To start.
Go with an expansion, because that way, if you play 3 games, you've played every single character.
And I think that would help too. Like we said, we haven't crossed over characters, but I think if he would play Mother Gothel, or I would play Prince John, or somebody that he's played, I would really understand more how to defeat him, because I would understand what his actual goal is.
And I think, honestly, if you did that, if you had a solid group of friends to play with this, like we have us 3 who are playing this right now, granted we're in quarantine. If you have a solid group of friends, like let's say 5 people who want to play this, and you grab this green one right here, and everyone always plays the same villain because like that's your villain, like you want to see who's the best at their own villain, I think you could have a really good time, because every person will play their hero or their villain the way that they think they need to play their villain. And even though each villain has a goal, like collect 99 puppies or beat Mickey Mouse or something like that, there's multiple different ways to do that. And other than that, I would recommend Villainous.
I love this game.
With apprehension, and with the fact that you will be confused for a month.
Yeah,
at least.
And I mean, like I said, I love this game. I really enjoy playing as a villain. I think that that's a fun twist. I like getting to play as other villains. I've obviously started with my favorites, and we're kind of working our way through the packs. But I'm excited to continue playing other villains. I would, overall rating out of 10, I'd probably give it like a 10. I really enjoy it, but I would like to play...
How many evil deeds out of 10 would you give this? How many evil plans out of 10 does Villainous get?
I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I really enjoy this game. I like learning about the villains. I love that it takes your character into consideration, because that's why you win. Like I played Ursula, and in order to win for Ursula, I had to get the trident and King Trident in a specific location. So like you have to play to their story, which I think is really cool. But I would love to play with a bigger group of people. We've only ever played with 3 people. And the more people you play with, the more things you're able to do. Like there's a fate token, and there's obviously other people with fate.
So that's a 9 evil deeds out of 10?
Yeah.
9 evil deeds out of 10. That's pretty good for a Disney fangirl. we have a evil villains table that we played our villains game on. That's kind of why we did this one first. But me being more of a board game just enjoyer in general, I usually start every game giving it a 10, and then just kind of dink it down for whatever I believe it should be dinked down to. And I think if you're just a solid board game fan and you want to find a fun board game, I think this may be a 7 out of 10, maybe a 6 Evil Deeds out of 10, depending on who you're trying to play with. I'm a little more strict just because I think the age limit on here is way wrong.
I think that would be like my one biggest critique.
And
that's not. I don't think that's accurate.
And you will not feel like you know you're doing things correctly. At least the first 2 or 3 games you play, especially if you get the full green version with Maleficent, who has 6 different people. Like, my issue is, if I have 6 variety, why would I play the same character over and over and over again, besides just to learn them? So that's why I would give it a 7. I feel like other board games get you into the game and get you feeling like you know what you're doing sooner. Whereas here, you get a ton of nostalgia from your villains. You get cool cards because you're getting callbacks from other parts of the movie or characters from the movie. And you get cool things that happen when you get fated or when someone else fates you. But overall, it's a little hard to get into. The age restriction is weird, but overall, it is a lot of fun when you know what you're doing and when you get into that role and you just start chugging along and you get your cards and you know a plan and then you move forward on that plan. That feels really good. When I played Pete today, I think Pete feels the most like a villain so far. Because he has 4 goals. So he's like, okay, I need to get this much money. I need to get this much army, and I need this much items, stuff like that. So I felt like I was like, okay, check number 1, got that done. Check number 2, got that done. Check number 3, I rule the world now. So that felt really good once I got into the motion of playing Pete. But overall, good game.
Overall, yeah, I like it. I rated it high. Not just because it's villains, but that definitely played into it. I love Disney. I love villains. Obviously, I wore my villain shirt for the playing of this game. I think if you like Disney, this is definitely something, but definitely keep that age in mind. Because
don't get this if your kids see it and they want to play.
And don't get it if your kid is not good at losing or being confused. Because it can be a long game if people are getting frustrated and not wanting to play. Besides that, like I said, I really enjoy this game. I like playing the villains. It gives it a twist, and I think it stays pretty true to their story, which I really enjoy. Is it called The Chew or is it called Chew?
It's called the Detective Chew, or it's called something. I think that'll be the next game we play.
We have a lot of really cool board games. We actually, every month, we alternate. One of us will buy a board game one month, and the next month, next one will buy. We love board games. Brooke, unfortunately, is sequestered to that because we always need more than 2 players. And she's here, so we're like, hey, time to play a board game. So yeah, this is something that we really enjoy doing, and we enjoy talking about them. So if this is something that you like, let us know.
Yeah,
so we're definitely gonna keep doing these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And make sure next time you're playing a game, pick up the pieces.